the US. Let's move on and focus on the UNGA developments. US President Donald Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart, Volodymyr Zelensky, held a bilateral meeting at the United Nations General Assembly. Zelensky called it productive, after which Trump appeared to dramatically shift his stance on Russia. Shortly after, Trump posted on social media saying, and I quote, "After getting to know and fully understand the Ukraine-Russia military and economic situation, and after seeing the economic trouble it is causing Russia, I think Ukraine, with the support of European Union, is in a position to fight and win all of Ukraine back in its original form." End of quote. That statement marks a sharp departure from the White House long-held position that Kyiv would be unable to reclaim the roughly 20% of its territory occupied by Russia since 2014. Trump went further, writing, and I quote again, "Russia has been fighting aimlessly for 3.5 years, a war that should have taken a real military power less than a week to win." He suggested Moscow was a paper tiger. The Kremlin swiftly hit back. Spokesperson Dmitry Peskov dismissed Trump's remarks, saying Russia is not a tiger, Russia is more closely associated with a bear. There are no paper bears, Russia is a real bear. He also rejected claims that the Russian economy was struggling. Meanwhile, Zelensky thanked Trump for what he called strong cooperation with the US. Speaking to reporters, he described Trump's shift as a big shift, a really big shift, adding that the US president now seemed more aware of details on the battlefield and that American intelligence appeared aligned with Ukraine's view. He also said that he would be ready to step down once the war with Russia ends, stressing that his priority is bringing the conflict to a close rather than seeking another term in office. We're now joined by Daniel Fried, former US ambassador to Poland and distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council. Thank you very much, Ambassador, for joining us. How do you think Russia is going to respond to the overtures of US after this meeting?
Well, Russia has already responded with sarcasm and dismissing Donald Trump's latest comments. More privately, I think the Russians are apt to be concerned by what may be, but not necessarily is, a stronger U.S. position in support of Ukraine. The issue that interests me is less what Trump says and more what Trump does. If his words foreshadow action to put more pressure on the Russian economy and more pressure against Russian aggression against Europe and NATO countries, that could convince Putin to back off and negotiate an end to the war. Anything short of U.S. action is going to lead Putin to conclude that Trump's words are only words and he can outwait Trump or wait until Trump changes his mind. But if Trump follows what he said this week at the UNGA with action, that could be a game changer. I think Europe is ready to support American leadership. Europe is ready to carry a lot more of the weight in support of Ukraine. But the U.S. has to be part of this. And so far, the pattern has been that Trump tiptoes up to the line of additional and decisive action to push Russia into negotiations and then fails to take it. I'm glad for the improvement in the U.S. tone, but we're not at the decision point yet. I hope we get there very soon.
Right. You know, Zelensky has told the UN that you need to stop Russia now or Putin will expand the Ukraine war wider and deeper. We saw those military exercises over Poland as well. What is the worry of a larger European war as a result of what's happening right now?
I think that Putin is in an aggressive mood, and he wants to push Europe and push NATO by seizing its vulnerable points. I think that Putin believes he can intimidate the West Europeans into retreating and then pressure the Baltic countries and even Poland, but particularly the Baltic countries, so that he weakens NATO's protection of them and even opens the way in several years to potential Russian action against them. Putin wants to destroy NATO, and he thinks that because of uncertain U.S. leadership and what he may think are rising nationalism and anti-Western politics, even in Western Europe, such as Germany, that he can get away with it. If he's wrong, he will back off. But Russia will not back off. Putin will not back off unless faced with sufficient strength from the West. So much depends on what Trump is going to do.
Do you expect any sort of breakthrough or ceasefire? Is the pressure on Putin going to work anymore?
Well, there's not enough pressure on Putin at the moment. So from Putin's point of view, why should he agree to a ceasefire when he believes there is an opportunity for him to actually win the war in Ukraine, to frighten, intimidate the Europeans into backing off of Ukraine and convincing Trump to abandon Ukraine? As long as Putin thinks he can do that, he's going to continue the war. If we want Putin to back off, we need to put additional pressure on Putin so that he recalculates the situation. Putin is behaving as a rational actor within his own nasty frame of reference. And we, the West, have cards to play. We can put additional pressure on Russia. We've just chosen not to do it. And the we in this case is largely Mr. Trump, because he has not used all the tools he has available. Or if he has, he's used them clumsily, as against India with the tariffs because of Indian purchases of oil, which was a clumsy move, to say the least.
All right, Ambassador Fried, thank you so much for joining us on the program, giving us your view on the Russia-Ukraine talks, Zelensky's speech at the UN, and about the change in stance that Donald Trump has taken for the moment against Russia. Let's see what happens in the war in the days to come. Time for a break, but up next on